Hi, everyone, and welcome. My name is Darlene Gillen, and I'm the Director of Alumni Relations here at Mass Art, and I'm a proud alumna of the college from the class of 2012 with a Master of Science in Art Education. It's really my pleasure to welcome you all here this evening to the workshop Networking Tips for Your Job Search with career coach Sabrina Woods. Tonight's professional, yes, thanks for waving, Sabrina. Tonight's professional development event is being co-presented by Mass Art's Career Development Office and the Alumni Relations Office. Sabrina Woods will also be teaching another workshop for us next Thursday, April 11th at 7 p.m., entitled The Value of Informational Interviews. And that's basically a part two of the workshop that you're seeing this evening. Before I introduce Sabrina to you and we begin the program for this evening, I'd like to take a moment to thank Meg Gatterman, who is our Student Outreach Manager here in the Career Development Office. And Meg coordinated the workshop and is managing the tech for this evening. Meg, would you like to take a moment to introduce yourself?
Yeah, thank you, Darlene. I'm Meg. I'm the student outreach manager at Career Development and 2010 Illustration alumni.
Great. And now it is my pleasure to introduce Sabrina Woods. Sabrina is an experienced coach, trainer, and speaker, leveraging her infectious enthusiasm and passion for connecting the dots. She uses holistic and mindfulness-based practices to help clients achieve greater clarity and alignment around what's important to facilitate greater resilience, fulfillment, and career success. Sabrina spent 18 years in the higher education career services field with Harvard, Northeastern, and the University of London, England, and now runs her own practice teaching workshops for a range of organizations and individual clients. And in her spare time, you can find Sabrina cycling down coastal paths, baking morning glory muffins, and reading about the neuroscience of stress. And if you want more information about Sabrina, you can check out her website at sabrinawoods.com or her LinkedIn at Sabrina Woods. Sabrina, please do us the pleasure of and honor of taking it away.
All right, Darlene and Meg, thank you so much for inviting me back. I was here a couple of years ago talking about networking, and it's a favorite topic. And I really like to break it apart and give you lots of ideas and also hear from you. Here's what we're talking about today. We're really talking about how can you build career connections. And I'm not just thinking about the connections you want to build now. I'm thinking about ones that might help you 2 jobs from now. So I'm looking at it from a long range view. So I don't think of networking as just that transaction that you make when you send that Venmo or put in that credit card. It's not transactional. Ideally, it's much more relational. Okay. Building significant, connections with people and over a period of time. And we'll define it even more than that. But I wanted to kind of really think, oh, it's not just what can I get? It's relational. I want to tell a quick story. Quite a number of years ago, I got this person named Michelle that reached out to me and said, "Oh, would you be interested in doing one of your LinkedIn workshops, or well, maybe it was a networking workshop at the Harvard Ed Portal?" And I was like, "Oh, wow! How did you find out about me?" Well, a gentleman by the name of Michael Iceland was at the Harvard Ed Portal in the audience for a workshop when Michelle said, "Hey, does anyone know anyone who teaches LinkedIn or teaches networking or is a career coach?" Michael had seen me. I had met him many, many years ago, but he saw me on a regular basis on LinkedIn. And so he remembered me. He recommended me to Michelle. So this is an example about staying in touch with your network. So I ended up doing workshops with them for years, and I still do workshops with them. But it's a matter of being awake to your network. So whether it's on LinkedIn or whether every once in a while you reach out to colleagues and you stay in touch or you go to networking events. But it's not just about one and done. It's about maintaining those relationships because you never know what good things might come from it. Here's another quick example. And my attitude about networking or philosophy is, how can I help? That's what I like to do. So I saw a job posting in a LinkedIn group and I knew Vicky who posted it. And I thought, oh gosh, this could be a really good job for Jen. So I connected Jen to Vicky, and Jen applied, and ultimately Jen landed that job. So that's just another part of this is it's not just What can I get? It's how can I help? And this networking, you can often help others in really great ways or be helped. So the overview for what I'm hoping we get a chance to do together today is actual networking in this session right now. Answer the question about when and how and why you should network. We'll do an icebreaker, this bingo exercise in just a minute, and we'll talk about the different kinds of networking, as well as a few more things over here, ranging from how do I find networking events? How do I introduce myself? Oh, it's really awkward sometimes about how do you talk about yourself. It's really great if we can think about that in advance before we're at a symposium, a conference, or a networking event of some sort. And just in general, we're going to talk about what if you have a really tiny network? How can you build it? How can you meet new people? That's our plan. But let's define networking first. And I've already kind of alluded to it, that it's about longer term relationship building. And these are professional relationships, and it's about sharing ideas, expertise, information. I really like doing networking to learn more about my field. I like to stay up on trends. I've had some networking chats with some of my colleagues about the intersection of AI and career work. And it's really great. That's a huge trend right now. I want to stay up on it, not just by reading, but by talking to other people. All right. Now, the other thing that you might learn when you're doing networking is you might learn about a nonprofit board that's looking for board of directors. You might hear about a one-off volunteering opportunity. You might hear about job opportunities, or for some of you, internships. So all different things can come from networking. So it's a really broad kind of bucket, not just jobs. And here's why it really matters. A lot of career coaches will use this percent. They'll say somehow 70%, or I should say in some way, a job is found through people 70% of the time. So it might be Darlene tells me about this event that I go and attend, and then I hear about something through that event about a job. So it may not be direct, but there, in some way, shape, or form, 70% of the time, there's going to be some human involved in how you landed that job. So it's really beneficial to not just use a job board, but to use humans, connect with people to make that happen. Different types of networking. So group events, everyday involvement in activities is a place that you can end up networking. One-on-one meetings, and that's this thing called informational interviews. We're going to do a deep dive in next Thursday. And then, of course, social media, especially LinkedIn. So lots of different ways. The idea when we think about networking is, okay, you've got friends, you've got a family member, you've got a past or current colleague or somebody you know from a professional association, and they introduce you to someone else. Boom, 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 all these new contacts. And then maybe you do this informational interview and they give you more contacts. And you do a couple more of these informational interviews, and it can grow and grow and grow. Earlier today, I was talking to someone who at one point worked at Arnold Advertising. And I just remembered a story. When I worked at Northeastern University, one of the students there did something crazy like 25 informational meetings, informational interviews at Arnold Advertising with all these different people. And then that process finally landed her an internship. 25 conversations. So I know that sounds like a heck of a lot, and I hope you don't ever have to do that many networking conversations. But if you're tenacious and you really want to work somewhere in particular, you just keep talking to people and you keep asking, who knows someone at this place? Who knows someone at this place? And keep that process going. It will grow. I am interested to hear, it's really nice to build off of existing strategies that you already have. And even if it's just a tiny tip, I would love to hear what kinds of things you talked about in your groups. And, coming off mute, you can do a little wave, or you can do the hand raise under the bar as a way to do it. And here's the deal. Doing things like this is great practice. This is a safe space. This is a place where you can just kind of like throw out an idea, but you're practicing for when you're going to be having conversations with other people. And if we can make you more and more comfortable with that, that's awesome. So I'm going to encourage people to share an idea. What you got?
Yeah, I was gonna say I dropped a bunch of things that I have gone to in the past when I was looking for a new job or anything like that. But I said General Assembly, Geeks Out, which is like a women's specific networking event for women in tech. UXPA, which is a conference in Boston that's coming up, I believe May 10th. For people who are within the UX industry. There's a conference in Boston, so they'll be coming, and I'll be there if anyone decides to go.
Right.
And yeah, I think Eventbrite was another one that came up. I think that's, and I was going to say that LinkedIn, if you are active on there, you typically can find some events through there as well.
Oh, fantastic. And you know what? I'm jotting down, Natalie, I learn every time I teach this workshop, and I didn't know about She Geeks Out. And I just started with a client who's in tech and is looking for some workspaces that are better than the ones she's been in the past. So I'm going to have to let her know about that. And then Bing, you've added in, what's Tech Poetics? Do you want to say anything about that group?
It's a great group that you can connect and also go to events. They mostly deal with art, design, and technology. So that's something I discovered while I was in mass art, attending grad school. Yeah, so
Wow, you're getting some thanks and some acknowledgments there. I love using emojis and reactions to comments, so keep those going all. Really good to hear about that. And then we had, Bing, you also said bostonartbookfair.com.
right, yeah,
Good one to
that's
check out.
yeah, especially for illustrations and graphic design. Yeah, that's one of the book fair that I used to attend.
Great. So
Right.
especially for illustration and graphic design. And then Darlene, have you been to Boston Design Week before?
No, I haven't. I'm always too busy to go, but
Oh.
they do this every year, and it's coming up on April 23rd, and it's interior design, graphic design, all kinds of areas of design, and they have a huge calendar of events and exhibitions, and they have a design awards event. I would think that if you're involved in design, that would be a great place to network.
I love the sound of that.
And I'm
that's
not
such
sure if they
a
offer like a student discount or anything, but you can check out their website.
And you know what one of my things are is if it's extraordinarily expensive, see if you can volunteer in some way when you're
Mhm.
trying to do some kind of conference that's expensive. That's a suggestion. And then Chris, is it Mick Expo or Mice Expo?
It's like mice, but then it's like Mice Expo.
Okay.
And that's like mostly graphic novels, but I was actually able to network through like to get to a printing company that offered they offered to print copies of my book for only like I think it was like $3 a copy, which is really good, really affordable. A lot of the printers out online were like way more expensive, like $20 per copy. And these guys bumped it down to like 3 a copy. And I met them
Wow.
through Mice. So there's a lot of great networking there. So I recommend that.
Thank you for adding that into the mix. What I love about this is everybody has some really niche areas, some really specific ones that I would never even know about. So Abigail put in madeinboston.com, Living Art Boston. Do you want to say anything about that? You don't have to. I'm just throwing it out there if you would like to. Oh, I think we can't hear you just yet.
I don't know why my mic is not picking me up very well, but I'm not muted.
Oh, okay. We hear you now.
Oh, okay. Sorry. I don't know. Like I have to fix my audio, I guess.
That's okay.
So it's a convention called Living Art Boston that I found this year that I am going to attend and see what that's like. But they have different panels for like creatives, and then there's a networking event, and then the next day there's even a fashion show. So I'm excited about that.
Oh, that's great. All right, so made in, and then it's C Boston. Okay. I'm just writing that down too. Okay, and the last one on here, we've got AIGA events too. Natalie, any comment on that one?
Just, the Boston chapter, has a lot of events. I think if you go to their site, they have like lots of little things, but anyone in the graphic arts can go to those things if they're interested. Anything within like professional industry events like conferences and stuff like that has always been helpful to me. I think that even I went to like the Boston like women's convention. That's more broad, but that's also another one that's it's really big, but it's a really good one too. So
I'm glad you brought that one up as well. Yeah, it's a huge event, and it gets a wonderful draw and some amazing speakers. And then we had Jen mentioning two things, specifically the Venture Cafe on Thursday nights over at Cambridge Innovation Center. And you said, I've heard great things about working with startup projects there. So this is really good for those that are considering that space or want to get involved, even if you want to get involved on the side. And I don't know if there's anything else, Jen, that you feel like saying, but that's great information to have.
I heard about Venture Cafe through like the group was called Boston Front-End Developers. And it was a small group, but once I was there, I was learning about other like tech related events that were coming up in the near future. And before that, I just had no sense of like anything happening in that community. So would definitely encourage you to go to those random Eventbrite groups and just like roll the dice, because like sometimes it's not so good, and sometimes like someone offered me contract work at that event, like maybe for like a family newspaper business to like tweak his website a little bit. And that's like the first time anything remotely resembling work has come up from that. So I'm definitely excited to keep going back to that.
I love it. We don't know. I like that you said roll the dice, because we can go to some events or some, professional associations or some things that are alumni events that are really bad. There's others that are really good. And then the rest of them are somewhere in the mix. But all it takes is this one person at this one event. I remember I was volunteering once. This is a long time ago, but I used to do volunteering for like rock climbing stuff. I did a lot of it in college and in my 20s. And I was at this event volunteering, and the person next to me happened to say, "Oh, did you know that St. Andrews School is hiring for a ropes course instructor, adventure-based programming?" And I was like, "Oh, I had done an informational interview with them 6 months prior, and I ended up getting a job there." So it's like, that was just a volunteer event I was doing. So that was an amazing coincidence that this person told me that this organization was hiring, and I ended up landing that job and had an amazing job in grad school. So we don't know. But if we just keep showing up and keep trying, it's that one time that it really works great, really works well, that makes it worthwhile. As we're going along, I'm going to jump back into PowerPoint, but as we're going along, if anything else pops up, put it in chat, because you're each other's best resource. I'm here to kind of help with the conversation and give you some broad tools, but your industries. And that's why I really love that you shared so much content. It made it much more worthwhile. So thank you for that. It's such exceptional group of information. So on a really broad scale, today's webinar is networking, industry events, professional association, other alumni events, meetup. Eventbrite was already mentioned. There's also Eventful. And I just did a search. This is actually coming up Saturday, April 20th. There's a book discussion about Navajo or Hopi art and religious concepts. It's like that happened to be on Eventbrite. So is this Harvard Art Museum at Night event that's coming up. I just did a quick search. It's amazing how fast you can find things, right? There was also another one, April 2nd. Oh, I guess that's already passed. Starting and building a career in UX. So Meetup is another place that you could consider events for. And on Eventbrite, there's a free button. So if you're like, hey, I'm in between jobs right now, go on and find stuff that's free. And So really straightforward. If there's a chat box, add your questions, add your comments, even those little likes or other emojis kind of help you build a connection with someone. And you could send, at least in Zoom, you can send individual messages to people, or, you can say, you can use their name. Oh, Jen, that was a great tip. Thanks. And then later on, maybe you consider connecting with them on LinkedIn. If you can grab their name, because a lot of times they have, Darlene Gillian right there. You can then go look them up, go find them on LinkedIn. Maybe even ask for an informational interview, which I said we'll talk about a whole lot next time. And then moving into LinkedIn, you could send a LinkedIn request to someone who's done a presentation. That way you get to kind of feel more connected with them. Taking it even one step further, you could even write up a summary. If you go to some conference and you sit in on a speaker's talk, you could write up a quick, like 3 things I gained from this talk of UX, blah, 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 and tag them on LinkedIn. So even if your network is really small, these small movements can start to grow it and grow it and grow it. And my message is never stop networking. Never stop. Well, let's call it building career connections. Never stop building career connections. You land in a job and you're really happy, keep growing your career connections so that when the next time you're in the job hunt, it's not even as hard because you've already really developed that sense of community in your field. Okay, I want to give you one example. This was actually a presenter who came to, I used to be the president of a professional association for career counselors, and Mo came and he was a guest speaker. But after the event, he gave a shout out saying how much fun it was to be with the Career Counselors Consortium at Northeastern. Big thanks to Cindy and Jessica for inviting me to speak. He tagged me and a couple of other people and did some hashtags and included a photo. So just want you to see how this can be brought to life. Now, going another level, I bet you people in this group probably didn't know that there are LinkedIn Live events now. And I learned from my buddy that you can connect with each other and ask questions right in that chat box. And I want to share a quick story. I was on a LinkedIn Live with this woman, Marty. Now, the first time I met Marty, she was doing what I'm doing now. She was delivering an alumni presentation. It was for Northeastern. I was actually there for my undergrad. So that was the first time I came across her, but she didn't know me. She didn't see my picture. There was a whole bunch of people on that. But I think at that point I connected with her on LinkedIn and just said, thanks for the great presentation. That was the first thing I did, right? Then I'm in the same LinkedIn Live as Marty is. Marty's making a bunch of comments on the LinkedIn Live, and so am I. You know what happened later? I don't know, later that afternoon or the next day, Marty posted on LinkedIn a quick summary of what was happening in that LinkedIn Live, and she quoted me because she liked something I said. She wasn't a presenter. I wasn't a presenter. We were both participants. Now, I'm going to take it a step further. I messaged Marty and I said, Marty, you're an incredible speaker and I, would love to chat with you, can learn from you kind of thing. I was doing an informational meeting with her essentially. And we got on the phone. Lo and behold, we were talking about a few things and I found out she was actually the keynote. Fast forward a few months later, she was going to be a keynote in the Midwest at a conference where I was a workshop presenter too. We ended up having dinner and I have considered her a mentor ever since. All because of a LinkedIn Live. All because of these little micro actions that happened. And she's still somebody that I know at this point and ask questions of and share feedback with back and forth. So kind of cool, right? So now I'm going to shift it down one and just talk about, I'm going to pop up a poll, just talk about LinkedIn in general. I am going to guess most of you are like, oh no, I don't post updates on LinkedIn. You probably put a lot more energy into things like Instagram because it's so visual and that's where so many more artists are. So I get it. That's your space. But I'm also going to encourage you to maybe take some of your social media energy and pop it over to LinkedIn, especially if you're interested in, positions that are more in business or, tied in some way to the sort of commercial world. All right, so I'll see what Meg has to say about that result, and then we'll keep on going.
So we have 75% said no, and 25% said yes, 1 to 2 times a month.
Okay. I said, I don't expect you to be in that space, but maybe you decide based on some of these stories that you can take a little bit of energy and pop in there, is my hope. So I'll give you a couple of examples. Just like any social media, you can like, you can comment, and you can share your own post, and you can tag people, like I'm tagging Jim here, James Gould here. So I sometimes even do just a little philosophy. This was looking for a job, trying to network more, shift gears to think about how you can add value to others, because being of service is an amazing way to authentically grow your network. That got a lot of reactions. This is just philosophy, just a little concept. I went and I pulled some that were more in your field. So here's someone who's a furniture builder. This was around the holiday time. Here's someone that just shared how they were doing sketches, and they just posted it on LinkedIn. Okay, just, hey, this is how I kind of like get my day going. I'm doing little sketches, and just shared a work in progress or a plaything. And animation is another thing that I've shared before. I found this powerful video, and I thought this animation job was done so well and had a great message. So I was sharing that. Even scientists are on here. This one had like 30 likes and 3 comments. I have no idea what this 3-photon imaging of mouse brain structure is all about, but I'm just intrigued by the fact that every industry is on LinkedIn. All right, and then I have a fun story, and I think stories make this much more real. And Meg, if there's ever anybody in chat or someone wants to comment or question, please interrupt. I want this to be interesting, and I want to answer questions as I go.
That's one
But,
person.
yeah,
Actually.
go for it.
Would you say or know if LinkedIn is a good place to catch the eyes of gallery owners for the purpose of showing work?
I have no idea. So what you could do is go into LinkedIn and put in the name of maybe 5 galleries. See if they have a LinkedIn page, and then start following the page and start interacting with it. Okay, so it's like you want to build to these kinds of connections. I'd also go and, search on some hashtags, because you can search posts just by hashtag or by putting a word in quotes, and you can search so many different ways to search, and you can actually search the actual posts. So you can kind of see what's popping up. But yeah, see if there's anybody that has a company page as a first step. And I loved that question. And if we have time at the end, we can also just kind of remind me, we can pop back in. Let me see how we're doing time-wise. Yeah, we might. We can do some play on there.
Can I just chime in for a sec?
Yeah.
There's an alum, Levon Jenkins, who's a very active painter in the Boston area and exhibits a lot here. And he shared a story about, he always posts his work on Instagram, and he shared a story about a California gallery that reached out to him and actually offered him a solo exhibition because they had seen his Instagram feed. So if you want to get your work out there, Instagram's really a great place to be posting your work all the time and what you're doing.
Good. I love these stories when people see what you're capable of and then reach out. Thank you so much for adding that one in, Darlene.
Oh, you're all quite welcome.
Good, good, good. So I'm going to share a quick story about this simple thing. This person, who's my first level connection, named Jim, posted about somebody else named Byron having put together a bunch of remote job boards. I added a comment, oh, and I tagged Jim. Thank you. I'm not connected to Byron, but I tagged him as well, and just said, I was just working on a handout for remote work job boards. So perfect timing. I'm going to add your resource. The next day, guess what? Byron himself sent me a connection request for LinkedIn, and he was one of LinkedIn's top voices in 2019. I wasn't expecting that. I wasn't even trying for it. I was just trying to be helpful to both my clients and give feedback to Jim and Byron that this was a cool resource. So that's how this can sometimes work. People can just appreciate you for promoting their stuff. So if you've got a favorite gallery and you start promoting that gallery, they might start to notice too. Okay, I'm going to say that I know this isn't a LinkedIn workshop. In fact, I do whole sessions on LinkedIn, but if you want, you can jump into sabrina-woods.com, click on the LinkedIn page, and then you'll see my main LinkedIn for job search handout at the top. But you'll also see stuff I'm going to reference later next Thursday about informational interviewing is in there. If you can't make it next Thursday, you could see those handouts now. I'll just say, Meg, keep watch for that. Oh, yeah, Jen, go for it.
I was wondering if you had any insights to share about Handshake. Because I remember as an undergrad, it was really promoted as like a great place to find a job, and I haven't really heard a lot about it recently. I was using it kind of recently, but I can't tell the best way to go about using it.
So, what's tough is I don't know if Handshake has only like right after undergrad kind of jobs in it. We don't, Meg, do you know anything about Handshake?
So Handshake is it can help with a lot of undergrads to get kind of entry level jobs and those kind of changing their career. It's kind of like an introduction to places like LinkedIn and Indeed, where you can kind of gather all your information, all your work experience, and then you can transfer that onto LinkedIn because that's like your next step after graduation. But there are sometimes jobs that go on LinkedIn, not in LinkedIn, but Handshake that we do accept that are for alumni, and it really depends on what you're really looking for. But there are ways to connect with other alumni and kind of connect with different employers and even speak to people who've had jobs at those employers with those employers. So
Oh, so mentoring opportunities or conversations that you might be able to have with someone. So that's like, it's not just a job board. It sounds like there's a lot of different elements to Handshake that are worth an alum's time, even though majority of the jobs are going to be more entry level. Is that
yeah,
how
it's
I say it?
yeah, it's like a smaller version of LinkedIn. LinkedIn's more large, global. It's the Handshake has around like 7,000 schools that it partners with, art schools. So there's a lot more. There are probably a lot more employers on LinkedIn than there are on Handshake.
Yeah. But that's nice to know. It's Handshake's not just mass art. It's a whole bunch of different art schools are all being pooled into Handshake.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, fantastic. We had when I worked in higher ed, I was at Northeastern and we didn't have Handshake, but being in the field, I know about it and different schools subscribe to it. Okay, this is good. All right, keep questions coming. And I'm going to keep going on kind of like conversations about, ideas about how we can expand our network. I remember when I was in my 30s, I like joined the Boston Ski and Sports Club and I played on their volleyball team badly. Okay. It was not a good sports experience because I'm not very good, but it was such a good social experience. And I'm still friends with one of the people I met back then. And so the point is, whatever you enjoy doing, consider, when you're with that group of people, that's you growing your network. And it's a really easy way to grow your network too, because you're joyful when you're doing something that you like. All right. And remember, it's not just that person. Okay, you meet this person, you find out, well, they work at Fidelity. I'm an artist. What good are they going to do? But maybe their next door neighbor, right, happens to be in product design. And you get a chance to then, through this person who works at Fidelity, meet this person who's in product design. So we don't want to just blow people off because they're not in our industry, because we got to think about who they might know as well. Okay. Some more things. Volunteering. I already kind of gave that story about I was volunteering on a rock climbing adventure thing and ended up landing a job a few months later because of that. So it was really very cool experience for me. Now, what we're going to segue into is we go to these events or we go to, or we're doing an informational interview and we have to introduce ourselves. And sometimes we don't make the most of that opportunity. So you can plan ahead and have what we would call an elevator pitch. They're short, the time you might go up a few flights in an elevator. Very old-fashioned term. I don't think people even use that very much anymore. I just threw it in here. But we want to think about ways you might want to introduce yourself. And so it can be what you're currently doing or what you're targeting. You can include something that's an area of specialty or focus, career-related interests, things that fueled why you care about the work that you're doing. Okay. Oh, I had this volunteer job once, and that's what ended up making me interested in blank. You know, that's a little story. Here's an example. If I were to go to an alumni event at Northeastern, for example, where I went to school for that undergrad degree, I would probably tell people, you know, I work as a holistic coach. I help people with career transitions. I'm also a trainer and a workshop facilitator. And what I'm thinking about next is see if I can bring some of my mindfulness and well-being related workshops into corporate settings. How about you? Tell me about what your work involves and what's next for you. That's how I might introduce myself if I were at an alumni event. Now, I don't have it memorized, and you'll notice when I gave it to you, it wasn't exactly what I had on the screen, and that was intentional because we don't want to be super stiff and look like we've memorized it. Instead, we just want to think about what's our intent that we want that person to know about us. Let me show you, another example. This one's an environmental science as an example. So this, if I were going to maybe I'm going to an Earth Day event and someone's like, oh, tell me about what do you do? Oh, my background's in environmental science. Now, for the most part, I've been working in environmental engineering firms, but I'm more on the budget and the finance and the payroll side. However, in the future, I'm really interested in going into an organization in more of a program development role and those that are more active in terms of climate change and environmental justice. And, I know we're out here at this Earth Day, but I got to tell you, I was really tempted to go kayaking today instead, because that's one of my favorite things to do. So it's conversational, it's relaxed, it's not memorized. And we want to give you a minute to think about these different areas, these questions. And well, I'll tell a tiny micro story. We were making introductions once. This was when I was working at Northeastern, and we were with some co-op folks. We were with some people from other divisions. It was a really big group. I think there were, maybe, I don't know, 75 people or 100 people there. And everybody was just doing really boring intros. And I added on to mine something about mindfulness in education or something. I gave my, again, this is internal to a university, couple divisions, whatever. And I just made this comment about my interest in mindfulness in education. And later, after we'd all finished doing our intros, someone came up to me and said, oh, we're in this department and we're doing this such and such in case you'd like to meet up. And so I met up with them and I learned more about their work and I expanded who I knew on campus who cared about some of the same things I care about. So, and I was the only one that did that added that little extra. And I'm glad I did. So when we say a little bit more than just the basic, oh, I'm this graphic designer and I work at X, that only tells me a small bit. But if you say a little bit more, you never know what other kinds of interactions might come of it. So you probably saw this comment. I'm going to ask you, and you can either come off mute. I'm going to do the stop sharing so we can see each other in chat. You can drop it into chat. You can skip it all together. You do not have to respond. You've already been awesome to be here until 8:20 at night after working all day or being in school or what have you. But if you want to, you can drop it in chat or come off mute and you can just read it. You don't have to pretend like you're at a networking event and do an improv session right now. You could just read your 3 sentences and others get a chance to hear what you might say in the future. So I'll leave it at that and see if anybody feels like it. And it's okay if you don't want to. I'm all right with that. Or you can type into chat if that's kind of like a tiny bit easier. Let's see if I got any other stories. I'll say this. Great. We have one. Darlene, do you want to share that one out?
Sure, it's from Bing. I love exploring and embracing different world cultures by learning their music. I hope to work with musicians and create sound visualizations or interactive installations in a creative multimedia studio.
That's fantastic. Well done. Now no one's going to follow you.
That sounds really exciting.
It really does. Yeah.
Thank you.
Oh, and I just went on my LinkedIn because a couple of you have requested to connect, and one of my very favorite alums, Elaine Alabrande, just posted a painting of her work. So there are
Hey,
doing
on LinkedIn. What? A painting? Yes, artists are on LinkedIn. Yeah, fantastic. Trying to think. Oh, I know what else I was going to say is I change how I introduce myself depending on the setting. So, in other words, I can be much more specific to my higher ed background when I'm going to be talking to other higher education professionals. If I'm at a retreat center, I might emphasize the fact that I'm a holistic career and life coach. If I'm at a barbecue, I might be like, oh yeah, I'm a coach, and oh, and I love to bike and I love to kayak. So it's like my intro is going to be different depending on where I am, but I do try and think about it. And I'm a little more buttoned up if I'm with if I'm with more like a corporate environment. I'm not corporate. I was at one point, I'm not anymore. So like then I might even have a different way in which I communicate it. Yeah, it can make a difference to match how we speak and the content of what we speak to that particular setting to get the most out of it. Again, people, if they know what we do, have a better chance of, or what we're going after next, have a better chance of then being willing to help. And when we tell a little micro story, oh, we've got another one or two.
I can read this one from Chris. My name is Chris Payne. My background includes work as a graphic designer for Sam Park & Company and self-publishing my first book. I'd love to use my skills of illustration and graphic design and considering working a full-time position or internship opportunity.
Perfect. Really straightforward, gets to the point, ends with what you're looking for. And we also have one from Abigail if you want to grab that one, Darlene. I love seeing the variety of the different ways in which you all are communicating this.
From Abigail, I'm a building information modeler at a structural engineering firm. I have a background in film production, retail management, and structural modeling and drafting. I'm looking to transfer my visualization and presentation skills from that experience into a career in graphic design.
And I like that I'm looking to transfer this into this so that people can understand, oh, you've come from this place and these are the particular skills you're using to transfer over to go somewhere else. So well done. I love this. Okay. I'm going to show one more example. I'm going to go back in. We're in our wind down at this point, but I'm going to go back into PowerPoint and share this last one. The reason I'm sharing it is there's a little story here, right? I'm currently a research scientist doing work related to autoimmune diabetes at Mass General. Two of my siblings have diabetes, so that got me interested, and I'm fascinated by this research. My plan is to continue in this field of drug development, therapy for immunological diseases. How about you? What does your work involve? It's a one-sentence story about siblings, or two-sentence story about siblings, but when we have a little anecdote that's a little different, it makes it more memorable. So I just wanted to include that little, if there's something that's inspired you and it's just a little different, it might help people keep that in mind easier. Okay, now, ooh, what the heck is an informational interview? I've been mentioning it several times, so I'm going to say 2 seconds worth and hope that you'll come back and join me next week. These are a reverse flip interview where I'm actually doing the kind of reporter interviewing kind of thing to get information from someone else. And it might be for a specific career path. It might be because, like Abigail, I want to make a pivot or a switch. Or for me, I love to find out about trends that are happening in the industry. And yeah, I want to stay abreast and I want to talk to people about it. So I do these informational meetings just to keep going and be on top of my game. But you could also be doing one of these informational interviews for to learn about a particular company's culture. Do I even want to work there? Could be the question. So again, that's going to be April 11th, next Thursday, 7 o'clock. Lots of interaction, opportunities to, get to know each other further, and some new people probably will join us. So I hope you'll be there. And then that's my website. So I'm going to do stop share so we can see each other. Miraculously, it's 8:30 on the dot. That never happens to me. Can you believe it? Woohoo! How many people are going to go eat dinner now? Anybody? Hasn't eaten dinner yet? Okay, yeah. So go eat some dinner and know that, you know what, this was an hour and a half. You were totally amazing to stick around for it. So thank you for that. And come see me next Thursday. Connect with me on LinkedIn. Feel free to ask me questions there, and have a great rest of your night.
Yeah. Thank you so much, Sabrina. This was amazing. And thank you all for coming this evening. And also you can check out Handshake for upcoming events, and look forward to seeing you next week, Sabrina, and all of you as well.
Great energy tonight. Thank you all. I loved your participation. Bye.
Good night.